Are you still sending a newsletter to your email list every single week? If you are, then this video is for you. We're going to talk about whether newsletters are still relevant in 2023 and what are the other things that you could possibly be sending to your email list as well. If you're ready, let's dive right in. When most people think of emails, they think of a newsletter. Okay, now what exactly is a newsletter? Let's just kind of get the definitions out of the way. And I've spoken about this before as well. A newsletter is an email with several calls to action. Okay, you might have a tiny little paragraph that just kind of gives an update of what you've been up to in the week. It might have multiple links to things that you have seen around the web, things that have been of interest to you, other pieces of content that have been of interest to you. It could also have a mix of your content pieces, things that you've shared on Instagram, your podcast episodes, maybe something that you wrote for your blog. All right, so a newsletter is kind of like a, hey, how's it been? This is my week, and an update of sorts. All right, and there are multiple calls to action in a newsletter. But is this the only thing that you should be sending? And you might be thinking, but hang on, doesn't everyone send newsletters? And what I want to tell you is a newsletter is just one type of email that you can send. There are other types of emails that are far more effective than a newsletter. So what are these different emails? Okay, so like I said, the newsletter is just one type of email. The other types of emails are single goal emails and campaign emails. So let's talk about campaign emails first. All right, so campaign emails are, and I've shared this in multiple places. I highly suggest breaking up your marketing calendar into a few different campaigns. Okay, and every single piece of content that you create as part of this campaign works towards the goal of that campaign. And when you are creating emails as part of that campaign, these are your campaign emails. And these emails are special in a sense that you can actually stack them up one on top of the next. And each email is well placed, all right? If when done right, all right, it can actually take this person, this ideal client or customer down this journey, all right? It could be a buyer's journey, an audience journey, a client journey, however you want to call it. Campaign emails work in such a way that when you are able to reverse engineer and you know the exact core messages that you want to bring up. So every campaign that you're running comes with a set of core messages or core themes that you absolutely want to bring up in your emails. All right, so campaign emails work towards helping you inch that person down that buyer's journey. So single goal emails could be when you have maybe a one-off affiliate offer that you're promoting, or it could be perhaps a summit that you're promoting, or it could just be like a flash sale or any type of once-off promotion that you have. Now that you know the different email types that are out there, which are the most effective? All right, is it the newsletter, is it the single goal email, or the campaign email? And from my experience from working with from clients and just from studying different emails and conversion rates, what I feel is the campaign email and single goal emails are far more effective than newsletters. Okay, now why? Because the structure of the newsletter, it has multiple calls to action, and it is harder to focus on what the main message or goal is. So when you're trying to lead someone, your ideal client or your customer, through the buyer's journey, it is harder to do that in a newsletter because there is just so much distraction. There are so many different calls to action, all right? And not everyone is able to kind of condense a singular newsletter around a theme where every single piece of content works towards a message. It's harder to do that in a newsletter compared to when you're writing a campaign email or when you have a single focus email. And specifically for newsletters, they don't help very much with reinforcing your messages or reinforcing your brand's perspective. So these core themes and these core messages, these are the ones that you want to be repeating in every single piece of content, all right? Depending on the campaign or the promotion that you're running, you want to be repeating this so that it helps your audience identify that, hey, this is her take, this is her perspective, this is her message. And it's harder to do that with a newsletter. Now, there is still a place for your newsletter. I'm not saying that you should absolutely just, do away with the newsletter, but if that's the only type of content that you're sending, if the only type of email that you're sending, I would highly recommend rethinking your email strategy. Don't think that if it's email, it is a newsletter. There are so many different types of emails that you should be sending. So when you're looking at your campaign email, within the campaign email, there are different types of emails that you can send. You can send case studies, you can send client stories, you can share your story, you can share misconceptions, you can share false beliefs, you can address a popular question, so many different things that you can do, right? Same thing goes for single focus emails. So stop associating sending emails with sending a newsletter. Now, how can you still incorporate a newsletter into your larger email strategy? Now, this is just one example of how you could do so, all right? Now, let's take January and February as two different months that we're running campaigns for. So C1 and C2 equates to campaign 1 and campaign 2, all right? Now, PL, I know there are lots of acronyms here, all right? PL stands for pre-launch, and S stands for your sales emails. So if you are familiar with my content, if you've been through other masterclasses of mine, you'll know that I always talk about the importance of a pre-launch before you are pitching anything, before you're sharing anything. Any call to action that you want your audience to take, there has to be some kind of pre-launch or a priming where you are bringing attention, raising awareness. You want to do all of this before ever asking them for anything at all. Okay, so if let's say in Jan you are having 3 weeks of pre-launch, and then you're going to have your sales emails, all right, and then that is the end of one campaign. Before you start your next campaign, let's say you're starting your next campaign in the 3rd week of February, you've got a little bit of buffer time in between these two campaigns. That is a place where you could potentially be sending out a newsletter. All right, so you could kind of keep things light because they've been through a campaign. You've shared some messages, you've really kind of shifted perspective, done a lot of belief shifting, and maybe you want to keep the content light for a little bit. And this is where it is prime time for you to perhaps send out a newsletter before you run your next campaign. So this is one way in which you can incorporate your newsletter into your campaign. If you're going to run a campaign strategy, which I highly recommend you do so, this is one way of doing so. And you can see that, it doesn't have to be a newsletter every single week, but it can kind of integrate with your larger marketing strategy and your campaign strategy, which it should. So if the only thing that you are sending out is the newsletter, if email is synonymous with newsletter for you, I would, encourage you to give it a think about the other types of emails that you can be sending. And it doesn't have to mean that for every campaign you are selling something or pitching something. You could very well do an authority building campaign or a visibility building campaign, specifically when you are just starting your business or you want to be known for specific areas. This is exactly what I did when I started out. I had nothing for sale and I just had authority building campaigns, and all my emails would be based on the core messages that I wanted to share for this campaign. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it got you rethinking the type of emails that you could possibly be sending out to your email list.